Hi there, me again. This time, going to start taking you through uh, in terms of how to use this on your phone as best as possible. I know a lot of you will draft through your phones, and therefore, this is a quick guide as to how you can sort of exist and live with MFL on your phone, especially during the season and drafting. So the first thing I told you in part one was to set the email alerts. You can go into your email app. I'm not going to open it because I have other emails in there, but you'll see that email that I showed you in video part one. So if you set the email alerts up properly, then all you need to do is be able to just go into there and you'll be able to just hit your email client, or whether you use Gmail or whatever you use. If you've got an email app that you use, just go into there, hit the link, and it's going to open the draft page specifically. So in terms of MFL, there are two third-party apps that are not actually created by My Fantasy League. They're completely independent. You can just go into your store. Now, iOS has two apps. I think Android has one. You can see here, you've got MFL Mobile 2020 and MFL Platinum. MFL Mobile 2020 does not work on Android, as far as I've been told and where. I don't know. I don't have an Android phone. I've been told that it's not on there. Personally, for me, MFL Mobile 2020 is easier to use. It's a better user base. It's a much easier experience. It's something I prefer a lot more. But if you're on Android, you'll have to use the MFL Platinum, which I have got set up for this, but actually don't use that as frequently. So I'll start with that one because that will appeal to everyone, and then anyone who's an Android user can finish the video and don't have to carry on. But I'll tell you why I prefer MFL Mobile 2020 afterwards. So just going to scroll through to this. Now I've got a league set up here already. So what you would do is pretty simple. When you download the app, it will ask you just to sign in with your MFL credentials. So it's username and password. And then once you do that, it pulls up this tab here of leagues. And you can see a live dashboard of all your scores in here. So I can literally just go in here and select the league that I want to use to set a league lineup. And here you've got all that information. So you've got the message board, you've got the league chat, which doesn't get used too often in MFL. But you've got your managed roster, what your roster is, the schedules, any league information, standing scores, lineup. So you literally just click on any of the buttons. And you can go ahead and just start setting your lineup that way. So you just start highlighting them, and then you hit submit at the top. It's going to tell me I don't have enough players, which is fine. Scores, pretty straightforward. It's just going to tell you what the running scores are, what the standings are. I mean, this is all pretty self-intuitive and explanatory. The message board, in case the message board gets used, there's nothing in this particular one. There's also an opportunity for you to post with new post there at the top. This is where you can search for players. So things like your waiver wire, you can search through here and get that done through here. Manage roster is where you've got all of those options. So the blind bid, waiver request, IR move, taxi move, proposed new train. So it is a pretty intuitive app. It's not too bad. You've got a draft button here. So you can see here, this tells you where you are in the status of the draft in terms of time remaining on the clock, current pick, so my next pick, what percentage of the draft is complete. That's quite a nice feature, actually. This is probably one of the better features in here. It's got all that information for you. So that's nice and easy to go through. And then history of picks of their game picks. So nothing to worry about there. So again, pretty intuitive NFL scores if you wanted them in there. So that's the MFL Platinum app. And again, so this is a good experience, I think, for drafting. I mean, I think drafting is all right. This is where you could set a queue potentially. So here's your draft list. So where that sort of 1, 2, 3 list is in there, and you go to add player. So it's actually quite a nice way of doing pre-drafting in here. If you can find the relevant players, but as you can see here, it doesn't filter out. It's just got all players, my players. So actually what I want to watch is let's just filter through some of these options. But again, it's probably not the best way. So you're going to have to literally search for players. It's going to be a bit difficult, but once you filter through, you'll be able to do that. Again, you can go my players, top ads, top drops, etc. So that's where you can create a draft list. Again, you've got my draft picks there at the end. And you've got people's rosters, which is this one here. That's my draft picks. And then you've got draft chat, but there's no chat going on here at the moment. So I think in terms of this, it's just about looking at well, these are all the latest picks, sorry. So in terms of selecting a player, I would go through here, try and turn all the filters off. It's a shame it doesn't let you filter who's been drafted and who's not. And if there is a better way, this is why I don't really use this app that much, is I find that the draft piece is a little bit more cumbersome. But there you go. This is why I think that my MFL 2020 is much better. But that's everything you need to know in terms of this app. So this is the MFL Platinum app in there. So if you're an Android user, this is the only one you can use. I'm sorry about that. In terms of the My MFL 2020 or MFL Mobile 2020 app, this is it. I'm just going to change leagues here in the bottom. It does take a few seconds. So this one for me feels it's just a bit of an easy interface. For example, I can go into the draft. I can see the draft order. I can see quite easily who's being picked and who's not. Again, I said no current pick, but it can tell me who's available. It's actually going to give me a list of who's available, and I can hit the filter button at the top. I can go by ADP, I can go by position filter, team filter. I can filter by a list or even experience to get rookies out of there. So again, the draft is a little bit easier, especially when you're on the clock. This is a really nice experience. You can just literally go into there and go on there. Rosters, pretty easy to see your roster in here. So again, pretty straightforward. Then manage my team is where you do your ad drops or you would do your blind bids. So this is where it's a little clunky, but it's not too bad. You just have to get used to it. You have to add a free agent. It might not let me do anything because it's all locked, but let's use this for just purposes here. So we just select the players, and you hit the blind bid amount. Now, the one thing you've got to do here is you've got to hit this add blind bids around one button, this plus button at the bottom in blue. If you don't do that, it doesn't save anything. And then you've got this, and this will then, once I do another player, and then I can change the order of these. So it's just literally where those lines are. I can literally pull up, pull down. So it's pretty straightforward. And then you hit the save picks at the very top there next to where it says blind bids. I'm not going to do that, obviously, but there's an example there. Trades don't need to worry about. Injury reserve, if there is an IR spot, you can activate from IR and deactivate from IR, or deactivate to IR. You don't have taxi squad. And again, this is where your draft list, if you had one in here, would be loaded. And this is where you can also edit it at the top as well. So it's quite cool. Submit lineup. This is where it's really easy. This is why I love this app more than the Platinum app. I go and submit lineup and I literally just hit these. Again, it's sort of similar, but I like the bubble with the tick. And also it has like the projected points for the scoring of your league, which is pretty nice. And then you just hit submit at the top next to where it says week 1. You can also set future lineups. So you could just hit, excuse me, at the bottom there, it says preview next. So I can hit next, and it takes me to week 2, week 3, week 4. So if I'm going to be away for a week and I'm not going to look at my phone, I'm not going to have time for whatever reason, you can actually set a lineup for future weeks, which is pretty cool. I quite like that a lot. You can check the live scoring in here. It's not going to show anything because there's no matchups right now. but it would have the live scoring and it blocks you next to the next person and where you're playing, and then your standings, etc., message board. So all that's in there. I just think for me, this app's a lot more intuitive. If you're playing in multiple leagues, down at the bottom, you'll see here where it says Murph and then in brackets Murph underscore NFL. I hit that and it says change league or lock out. So I hit change league and it pulls up a list of all my leagues. So I can flit in and see how I'm doing it in an eliminator and then check live scoring or standings and see how I'm getting on, which is quite cool. So I'm a big fan of this app. I think it's much easier if you're on an iPhone. I much prefer it. I think it's a much better app interface. It's much quicker. So I really recommend this. Everything. I still recommend the email version for draft. I think it's so much quicker. It's more intuitive. It's slightly better. It's a better experience. Easier to pre-draft on the mobile app or mobile site itself than it is to pre-draft in these apps. But other than that, for in-season management, everything I do is done in here. I don't need to go into the MFL site unless I'm on a laptop. At any point, I can set my lineups last minute in here. I can set my waivers in here, and that's how I tend to do it through the season because it's so much easier. I can do that on the go. So it's pretty much everything you need to know. I hope this has been also pretty useful and you've got the most out of it. And I look forward to playing with you on MFL at some point in the future.